are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced and get happy with Dr. Marissa. And this show is about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So I have shows and topics.
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days.
Monday, Tuesday,
Happy days.
Wednesday, Thursday,
Happy days.
Friday, whatever.
Happy days.
What a day. Na, 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 na.
I love you.
I love you too.
Best known as the mom from Happy Days, and she is a delightful 89-year young Marion Ross to my studio. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Dr. Marissa, this is such a treat for me.
Oh.
My goodness, you're a wonderment.
Which is exactly the kind of guest that I like. Those who have gone through life, good and bad, and then taken those experiences to alchemize them into the person they are now and doing good on the planet. I'd like you to welcome Corey Feldman.
If you're grateful for it and you say right away, thank you, God. Oh, my God, that's so beautiful. I'm so blessed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Then guess what? More good things will come to you.
Does this sound familiar at all? She's back again to mark my Cancer Awareness and Prevention Month show. Please welcome Fran Drescher. Hi, Fran.
And supporting cancer schmance. I really appreciate it.
So what would you say are some of the biggest myths, Fran, that people have about cancer?
Well, I would say that they think that there's a cure for it.
Okay.
Instead of a cause for it.
This is the first call-in show when I get to be Dr. Marissa, the kinder, gentler Dr. Laura. And people call in to get their life tires balanced and their critical thinking or their BS, their belief systems, smog checked. And today I am delighted to have Malie calling in from Birmingham, Alabama.
We could go 90 days and end up having terrible sex. And then you say, well, the relationship's not all about sex. Well, if I'm not getting great sex from you, then I'm going to get it from somebody else. Right?
That moose just got put on the table. And I see Josh and Jim.
I have to agree
You're
with Clyde.
both nodding. Ramon's sort of half nodding because his wife's listening. But
I understood what was going to happen if Muhammad Ali's youngest daughter, made public that I was going to become a boxer. So I wanted to make sure this was the path that I wanted to go down.
You are absolutely fabulous, beautiful inside and out. And I'm giving you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award today.
Thank you.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic point.
When I go, I'm gone.
Are you lonely?
No.
Nah, I knew that was going to be
But
the answer.
I surround myself with people. I mean, I'm always the one cooking for things. But I'm always the one that decorates first and come to my house. All the orphans that have no place.
I'm going to have no place to go, so I can come over.
Come on over.
And life is so amazing if we can see it.
off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports Radio Station AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Spreaker, Streaker, and more. Why so many places? Because I want to maximize my splatter zone for more hope and happiness and balance out all the bad news that is so readily available with some good news and good people and fabulous guests over the past 618 consecutive weeks. This is podcast show number 1120, but who's counting? And I am delighted. You can tell it's Thursday because I have my co-host, James Hawthorn, for our very special Thursday series called Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorn.
Welcome back to the studio.
Thank you so much. Great to be back.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and start right away and have breakfast together. This is a morning discipline, good life habit that I like to encourage you to do by starting every show with this exercise. 8 specific things that you are grateful for that are outside of yourself. And then on the bottom of the button, because I like it on the bottom, 8 specific things that you appreciate about yourself so that you're not always going around looking for likes, who likes me, or on social media, literally. So, James, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for prompt payment. I had a really fun industrial gig down in Orange County yesterday, and on my lunch break, they had me fill out a W-9. And before I even went in to shoot the second half, they handed me a check. I said, that is the fastest payment I have ever received for anything in the entertainment industry in 15 years of doing this. So nice. I was so grateful for that. I'm like, you guys, thank you.
That's fabulous. And we're going to go to my cashew gallery for the second gratitude. We have our co-captain of the my love stream or peanut gallery, and Troy Pacelli is here. He says, I am grateful for another week and another Straight Talk with James Hawthorn. He's your biggest fan now that you were a guest on his show on his YouTube show on Fridays called Last Call with Troy Pacelli. My gratitude is that I am grateful for all the plethora of work and kinds of work that I get to do. I was a little bit late in the studio because I was writing a communication for one of my clients as an organizational psychologist. And for those of you who wonder where my doctor comes from, I'm not an MD, but I am a PhD piled higher and deeper. And I get to do organization consulting work, which I love to do along with everything else that I do, my 8 jobs. But I'm grateful that I get to do that. Your turn.
I'm grateful for the fact that baseball season is almost upon us. I am a complete baseball nut. I even watch the spring training games and put them on in the background while I'm, programming sessions for my clients. And the season is just about to start, and I couldn't be more excited. I love it.
I'm not going to ask you what team you're supporting, but anyway. Right. Yeah. And Troy is also grateful, although he's been very busy with his day job. He's needed and making a contribution. Absolutely. I am grateful that I actually learned more about baseball and the Dodgers because my bonus dad, who's 94, loves the Dodgers and loves watching. So, and my mom, actually, my bonus mom, Dolores, she's 91. and they're so cute. Like they're big fans watching. The world revolves around sports of in the different seasons. So I've learned that there's quite a few cute guys.
You're telling me, those uniforms, they fill those uniforms out. So, I feel like they should do a who wore it best, but for baseball players, like they do on the red carpet at the Oscars, like who fits into their baseball pants the best, something like that. I would tune into that as well. That would be like the bonus coverage. Instead of the red carpet, they would call it the green turf,
All right. We've got another little, I don't even know how to respond to that. The Trolley Dodgers.
That's what they were called in Brooklyn, because back in the day when they had trolleys going down the street, people would be running out of the way to not get hit by the trolley. And that's where the name Dodgers comes from. Thank you for that piece of history, Troy. Cultural enrichment for our audience today.
I never even thought to, you know what I mean? Like you know a name, but you don't really think about that. Wow. Yes. Thank you, Troy. I love learning new things. And with that, we're going to go down to the bottom of the bun, because I think we've satisfied our 8 gratitudes on top. So I appreciate my ability or my love for learning new things. I am definitely not a person who thinks they know it all. I want to always be, or at least 88% of the time, open and expanding and learning and growing and all that kind of good stuff. So I appreciate that about myself. What about you, James?
I like my improvisational nature. I used to suffer a lot more from get right-itis, and now I've become so much more comfortable shooting from the hip. And I had so much fun yesterday on the shoot on this set, because even though there was a great, script to follow, they encouraged some improvisational things, and so I could just let that part run. And I had people laughing and trying to stifle their laughs so as not to ruin the take. And I like that I was able to make some people chuckle with my improvisational aptitude.
Awesome. I just had a thought to put on the calendar this year that I and you go to an open mic, comedy, stand up, and just play.
I love that, because you know what? That's an adrenaline rush. I don't think there's anything more challenging in the entertainment world than stand-up comedy, because you're naked up there, Yeah. You could approach it like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and actually come out on stage with nothing but a tube sock around your bits and pieces, like they did for a music show once, and really emphasize that point. But you're naked. You're not hiding behind a character. Even with improv sketch work and stuff, you can hide behind characters and the structure of the game. Acting, you have a script, but stand-up comedy, it's just you and your perspective on life. And I think those stand-up comedians are some of the bravest entertainers in the world. So I think that would be a great adrenaline rush thing. Well, we don't need to go jump out of an airplane. We just need to go jump on a stage.
Yeah. and that's tied to my another appreciation of mine is I was told on a very regular basis by my husband that I was not funny. And that really is the best part of divorce for me, was owning my funny. And now because when you have that kind of conditioning from anyone, you almost get defensive about it, or you don't believe it. Like I have a lot of people go, "You are so funny," right? And I'll go, "Thank you." And then I'll go, "Oh, no, you're not funny. They're just being nice." That's all the stuff they used to say. So I appreciate that I'm owning my funny with the suggestion of our date to go to do that. Troy, I appreciate that I don't give up easily. Tenacious, I think, is the term for that. Yeah, perseverance is a nicer way of saying it. Tenacious is a little negative. Some people will see it that way. But, great. James?
I'm going to change what my second one was based on what you just said. I've gotten to a point in my life where I've learned how to distill down the opinions of others and figure out when a criticism that might be coming my way is something that I need to process and reflect upon. And when it's just a bunch of BS, and I can go, you know what, you're one to talk. And that has really helped me preserve a sense of inner peace. And it's also given me opportunities for growth and development. And it's taken a long time to figure out which opinions matter and to what degree they matter. And I think I'm finally at a place where I'm a lot better at it now than I was, say, even 10 years ago.
That's great. Yeah. There's nothing better than really embracing the title of a book of one of my past guests, Dr. Oh gosh, never mind. The name of the book is What You Think of Me Is None of My Business.
Yes.
And there's nothing in life more freeing. This is my BS, my belief system, of really doing what you're talking about, is like when to take in constructive criticism but the majority of the time, it really is not about you. It's about where they are and their dis-ease with themselves. Have you ever noticed that the people who criticize you a lot are ones that can dish it out, but they can't take it?
Yes, that, and they're also the most critical on themselves, and they're projecting their own internal processes onto others. And then there's people that are the exact opposite, that are super critical on themselves, but they're the most effusive and complimentary because they don't want to be the way that they are. So they're trying to break free from that by at least being complimentary towards others. So, you have both sides of the coin with that one.
Yeah,
I've noticed.
good point. Good point. Good balance on that one. All right. And that is it for Having Breakfast with Dr. Marissa and
You're clean shaven this week and freshly haircut co-host James Hawthorn.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that. You look like 8 years younger. And my favorite part of that is I get to see the butthole. I mean, oh man, that didn't even, sorry, Frank.
Chin is what it's called. But you know what?
Cleft chin.
You could just call me a butt face. It's totally fine. It's better than being called a D-head. I don't know if we could say that without you getting
No,
by
we
the
can't.
FCC. Yeah.
I
Call me a
don't
butt
think
face.
I
Just don't
shouldn't
call
have
me a
said,
D-head.
actually, I shouldn't even said what I said. It slipped out. But, it is Thursday and it is straight talk, so we can slip it out. All right. Before I get into any more trouble, let us move to the topic of today, which is actually my topic. We both forgot what we said we were going to do this week, and I wanted to continue on the theme that literally was started kind of accidentally on purpose on Tuesday with my guest Andy Liu, an Australian fitness and wellness, but her big thing is breast explants and the whole take on beauty. And then my co-host Wednesday, Doctors in the House, Dr. Tiffany Tate, wanted to talk about the beauty standard. And all of these are a perfect way to kick off Women's History Month. And do not let me forget to put up, I was honored by Fox News in Washington, D.C. at being selected as one of the 3 women to highlight for Women's History Month some years back. And the Emmy award-winning producer Terry Tolliver put that together. So it's available on my YouTube channel and actually on their channel as well. But for Women's History Month, I don't think there's a better topic than to talk about beauty and looks and looksism and how we feel about ourselves as women, being slightly more critical of ourselves. They've done research on this. It's not a stereotype. I have a tool called Have a Guy Day. Look at yourself the way guys look at themselves in the mirror at the gym. If you watch a woman walk by the mirror, she usually will, kind of walk quickly and put her eyes down. But most of the time, men, if they walk by that same mirror, they're like, Yeah. It's so amazing, the difference that way. So it's a perfect month to kick off feeling good about yourself and that whole thing about what is beauty and what is hot. So since we're straight talk, I thought I would extend the beauty standard to the hotness or the chemistry. Or let's see, how did I shouldn't make this up while I go. Hot or not, food for thought. That's from James. What is your type? Tall, dark, and handsome, short, light, and ugly. Just kidding. But seriously, we've been talking about beauty all week, kicking off the Women's History Month with a bang, pun intended, and how one defines beauty. So what is hot? Is there a look? You know, is it a universal look for hotness, or is it completely random and different and subjective when you decide you won't kick them out of bed for eating crackers and try to jump their bones instead? Millennials, you may have to look that expression up. So that is what we're talking about today. And so, as usual, if you have any questions or comments and contribute in, please do. And Troy will welcome you into the chat. You have a superhero chin.
Thank you. You know, let's tell all the casting directors in town that that's the case, and maybe I can finally do some superhero work. But you know, what's more fun than the superhero is playing the supervillain, because it's just cathartic. You know, be a nice guy in real life and be pure evil on camera.
Ooh, I like that voice you just did. Something
I'm Batman.
Too bad you're gay. Anyways, I mean, it's all good. It's all good. So what is your definition of hot?
You know, I'll start by saying we have a chance to do something really cool on this show. We all get to share our, you know, opinions and perspectives on it, but we also get to try to take a stab at, you know, is there an objective truth around, you know, what is hot? Something that is, if not universal, almost universally agreed upon. And to what degree are those characteristics attainable for us? So we have a chance to actually maybe be really helpful today. Give some really helpful guidance or advice based on seeing if we can get to some sort of objectivity around what's hot. For me, people ask what my type is, and I tell people it's the 99th percentile. I have all kinds of different types that I find attractive, but I like the cream of the crop from each, you know, vertical, if you will. So it's the top 1% of a whole lot of different types. And so that, you know, I find a lot of different things attractive, and sometimes it's looks based, and other times it's in their personality. It's something about the way that they move. It's something about the way that they just behave that I find irresistible. And when you talk about chemistry, I think chemistry is more about those kinds of things than the things that please the eye.
I'm thinking of the swiping, swipe or no swiping, and that is purely based on looks, right? That when you initially look, I think very few people will actually look at the description unless they find that look. And I just thought, wouldn't it be interesting to couple with an app to do some research around what that look is that the majority are swiping for, and does it match or does it change over the time? So for if I think about what the norm standard, as you were saying, taller is better than shorter, and I think tall goes from 5'10" and above. That's my thought process. That's how I see it, anyways. I think from the normal standpoint, that might be something like that. And then more hair rather than less, right? So more hair versus comb over. This is for men. Obviously, I'm talking about men right now. Let's see, tall, dark, and handsome has been one of those, Cary Grant, Rock Hudson, which was really interesting when it came out later that he was gay. the chiseled chin, the butt chin, chiseled jawline.
Cleft chin.
Sorry, cleft chin, chiseled jawline, high cheekbones. Let's see, any more on looks? Like an aristocratic nose. Yeah. So and what do they call those triangle?
Yeah, the V-shaped cut,
The V-shaped,
broad shoulders with a
broad shoulders,
slender waist, and
slender
all of that.
waist,
Yeah,
nice legs, and of course, at least 6 inches, if not more. Not even, yeah. So let's see, anything else? I want to be really complete on this. So I captured the ideal, what most, not saying blondes don't matter, but I think I've got about 88% of what I think most women would find attractive.
Yeah, and to balance it out, to speak on women, I think look at how it's changed over time. Where Marilyn Monroe was the ideal, and if she were to come around today, well, maybe not so much today, but maybe 20 years ago, she wouldn't make it into any magazines because people would have said she's overweight, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you. Bless you. Some people will do anything for a blessing.
Exorcise the demon. That's what I'm doing this morning. But I think today Marilyn, Monroe would be considered more attractive again, because I feel like we're starting to come full circle and realize that the Kate Moss, when she was at the height of her modeling career, anorexic sort of model thing is not healthy. And so beyond what, society decided was hot for a certain period of time, I think we've put a greater emphasis on health, and we've realized that that is just not healthy. Mm-hmm. So it's really been interesting to see how it's changed and morphed over time. And if you go way back in history, if somebody had a woman that was 100 pounds overweight, it was a sign of prosperity and wealth, because living was harder then. So everybody is running away from scarcity, starvation, and it was considered, very hot to be like, or even opulent, right? To have that sort of physique, or have a woman that was well fed. So to me, the most fascinating thing of this topic is how fickle it can be, because it has changed. It's literally changed 180 degrees based on the context of where we're at as a culture in society. If you go to my mom, she's blonde, and she went to Cambodia, Vietnam, and all the men and the little kids too were just like, thought she was the most beautiful thing in the world, because you don't see a lot of blonde hair there. And so I think when you put it into perspective of societal context, history, culture, the fact that it's varied so much means even if we do come up with an objective sort of answer, what does it really matter? I mean, yes, we're only alive during this 70 to 100 year window, so you could say that all that matters is what it is right now. But when you really zoom out, I think an important takeaway is to give yourself grace if you don't fit what that objective mold is, because guess what? There will be people that don't like the conventional universal definition of hot. They have their own thing that they find really attractive or endearing. So I think that's a takeaway. Like you said, I've said many times, this idea that there's only one person in the world for you out of 8 billion is ridiculous. So to say that even if we do come up with a relatively objective idea of what's hot, does it really matter all that much? Is it really that important to try to attain it, given that people, different strokes for different folks?
Yeah, which is the point that Frank made yesterday, my sound engineer, in the back end comments, was, women don't understand that, there are many men out there who find their particular look attractive, and that is completely not like the standard. And wouldn't it be wonderful if teens and preteens and those who are growing up and understanding, and criticizing themselves so much because they don't fit in that. I was like that, I would go to bed every night and say, please let me wake up looking like, the girl next door. And because I got teased so much for not being, that, even like, no matter what my body looked like, I wasn't the right color, right? I didn't have the right eye shape, to be called chunk, which is a fat chink. That's like, that's difficult to take off like a coat. I'm working on it. I'm happy to report that I've never been so complimentary to myself in my entire life on the way that I look. So that's a huge thing. I think I'm like down 33 pounds. I feel better health-wise. Good on my hips don't lie. that I had 2 hip replacements.
You brought up a couple things for me there in that. One is this idea of things that are universally hot being attainable. Like, for example, most people would agree that confidence is sexy, is hot. And if you can be genuinely confident and not just putting it on like a veneer, that's a good thing to strive towards. But this idea of striving towards things that are maybe more, is it hot, is it not? Maybe it doesn't matter. Like, don't try to be something you're not. So for example, I'll have clients in my personal training business come to me and they'll say, I want to look like this. And I have to politely tell them, that's not your body type. You need to look like the best version of you. Like, play the hand you've been dealt. Certain people say, I just want to lose a little weight here. I want to lose a little weight, right here. And I'm like, it doesn't work. Where the fat cells are is where you're going to lose the weight. And everybody has fat cells in different places. Similarly, if somebody comes to me and they're built like a, marathon runner and they want to go into bodybuilding, I'm going to say, I think you're, what is it? The red herring? Like, you're chasing something that's just not fake. It's fictitious. A more realistic goal for you might be to put on 15 to 20 pounds of muscle and work on being maximally strong with the body type you have, as opposed to looking like, that bodybuilder. So I think to a degree, mesomorphic, there you go. Yeah, there's 3 kinds of body types. Some people have a really difficult time changing the way that their body is going to look. That's ectomorph. I'm that. It's difficult for me to put on weight and lose weight. I'm very homeostatic. Other people are endomorphs and they can drop or gain 30 pounds like that, and other people are sort of in between. I think it's really important for people to find a way to love their gifts physically and not be so hard on themselves for the things that they can't change. It's like the serenity prayer that they say in AA or whatever, give me the courage to change the things I can, the surrender to let go of the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think that can be said for our physical appearance and also the behavioral things that make us sexy. If you can find a way to be genuinely more confident, that's a productive endeavor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me, I remember watching this woman walk across the street in front of my car, and she was definitely in the standard overweight, and she had a tight top on, which, I mean, she wasn't obese, but she had the, the booby do, when your tummy sticks up farther than booby do, and when I had that, I want to wear loose clothing to hide that. And she walked across that street with so much confidence and so much, swagger, and you just knew she was hot. And
there are guys that dig thicker women. So
I said, that's what I want to be.
She's playing to her market. She's playing to her demographic.
Yeah, and that's such a really important point. That best you, which is your brand with your training, is, are you being the best that you can be I had a co-host that was her message as well. With what you have, are you the best that you can be in what you have? And that's why, you know, I'm not losing weight for anyone else. I'm losing weight and working out for me because I want to feel good about the way I look internally, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And so, you know, I say to people, the first step isn't necessarily signing up at a gym or anything, you know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to drop how many pounds. The first thing is when you get up in the morning, take a shower, do your hair, put your makeup on, and put on something nice that you usually don't wear on an everyday. That's, to me, the step that begins us on that journey of loving the way we look. It's not anything drastic first, but it's turning that corner. You know,
it's building a habit that can change your programming. And you know, going back to this idea of why we work out and do things, I really try to broaden people's perspectives and say, listen, you might come to me with this picture and say, I want to look like this, but let me tell you what you're going to get if you stick to it. You are going to feel more confident. You're going to have more energy. And when those things are going for you, you're going to like the way you look in the mirror more, even if you don't really change anything, you know, because you're going to say, hey, I just performed this at the gym. I accomplished something. And that can totally change your perspective. Even if you're looking at the same person in the mirror, you're going to like what's looking back at you a lot more. And I said, you don't even realize that benefit is coming. But when you start, and, you know, I had this client that was so self-critical. She'd be lifting and looking at herself in the mirror and she'd be like, I'm such a fat bee. And she'd say it out loud. I'm like, oh my God, how are you talking to yourself like this? But when she gets into the rhythm of doing it regularly, she stops saying that because now she feels like she's got energy. She has a vitality about her. There's a bounce in her step when she walks. And all of a sudden, the criticisms that she used to feed herself kind of go away. And so sometimes I think a way to be more hot is to act in a healthy way, build healthy habits that tend to foster more positivity.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Oracle Nation's in the house. PJ, I don't know if you're still in Spain or if you're in New York now. I will invite all of you. This is Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Pants with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. It is our very special Thursday series called Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorn.
And you're tuned in to KCAA, NBC News Radio, home to the Asian Oprah, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and, of course, the Show Central, which is my YouTube TV channel, where if you free subscribe, you will get an alert every weekday morning to join us here in studio live, talking about a plethora of topics. And today is another take on Women's History Month, although we are talking about men as well, but we're talking about the beauty standard continued, and in particular, what's hot? You know, what makes you hot and where is that chemistry? And we've already established the fact that, you know, having that societal standard being put on you as fodder for you to criticize yourself is not helpful. And as much as we can, just be the best that you can be. That is really, truly, as far as, you know, you want to be hot, feel good about the way you look now. Not saying you don't want to make changes. This is definitely out of Abraham Hicks's Law of Attraction book, which is you cannot move to what you want to look like if you're constantly hating where you are. But when you actually appreciate where you are, you come from that energy to be able to change in the direction that you want to change. Yeah. Not because there's anything wrong with you, or you're ugly, or you're fat, or you're stupid, or any of those criticisms will keep you locked in that place of dis-ease. So as soon as I can say, you know, I love my body and its way to the way it carries me around to be able to do things and experience life, and it holds me up and helps me, hold people and care about them. I love this body and the way I don't have to tell it how to digest food. It just kind of does it. And I love my body. I love my body. And when I'm from that place, then I also get inspired things like, well, that's might make me sluggish. So I'm not going to do it. Not because I can't eat that, but because I want to feel the best possible way in this body.
Yes,
so that's
when you can wake up and say, I am a healthy person, because the things you do and the habits you do fuel that, you're going to feel better about the way that you look. And I think just like we talk, about things you like about yourself as part of our breakfast, I think it's really important to frame things in the right way. And because your perspective is something that is your choice, the way you choose to look at it. The truth is the truth, and what is, but the way you look at it's your choice. For example, if I have a client that says, I have chunky legs and I don't like that, I'm so bottom heavy, I'll say, well, look, don't you kick all your friends' butts on hikes? Don't you look really great? And it doesn't your booty look really great in a nice pair of like form-fitting pants? Like, there's benefits, there's good things to this thing that you hate. So focus on, enjoying the hand you've been dealt as much as possible. And if you want to drop, a few pounds because you want to feel better, well, your legs are going to get a little more slender too, but you're always going to have a thicker bottom than you are top. It's the way the Lord made you. The other thing about being healthy and the benefits it gets is, if I haven't been on my routine and I go for a run, no matter how slow I run, I tell myself, James, it doesn't matter that you're running much slower than you did a few years ago. Instead, I walk in the door and I look at myself covered in sweat, sometimes even salt on my face. You could say that that's an ugly look, but to be honest with you, I see that sweat, I look at it and I look at myself with pride and say, I just went out there and kicked my own butt. Like, I went out there, I did the thing, I knocked out 10 miles and I didn't feel like it, even though it was slow, I did it. And that gives you this swagger.
Yeah.
I'm wearing the shirt for God's sake. Here's Rocky Balboa on the top of the, Philadelphia Museum steps, arms up triumphantly. When he gets up in the morning and he's drinking down those raw eggs, and he looks in the mirror, I bet you he doesn't, like the way he looks, but he comes back from that run, and he's like, I am the man. Now let's go to the gym and get ready to take on the best in Apollo Creed. Just to extend the metaphor.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to actually offer something here that is a little different than the way that we traditionally think about motivating ourselves. So Troy captures this. I get the mentality. Sometimes you have to start with a negative impression of yourself to promote positive change. And I'm going to just offer a little different slant on that, because I do believe that because we are so self-critical, a lot of us are recovering perfectionists, and we are, in that, I have to hate myself enough to do something, or, oh, I look horrible, I need to do this, I need to drop whatever, and then you start on that path. The only downside to negative motivation is it's never enough, right? You've lost the 10 pounds. Well, I still need this to go. Or somebody will compliment you. Wow, you've really done a good job. Well, yes, thank you, but I still have this to go. And then whatever that target was continues to move. And, next thing you know, if you go to the extreme, you have an eating disorder or something that took you off the rails. So for me, coming from negative motivation is not useful, ever. That any time, and this is the law of attraction also principle, is any time you fight against something or you hate something, war on drugs, war on starvation, war on human trafficking, that same energy of hating something is not going to affect any positive change. So in order to get to the positive change, to come from a positive place, instead of beating yourself up in any way, even kickstarting, it's still counterproductive, at least in my experience.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with both you and Troy, and try to frame it in a way that might be helpful for our audience. When you were talking about what that book by Abraham or whatever,
Abraham Hicks, Law of Attraction.
The way that I like to frame things is, you can get so negative if you look at where you're at and you say, I don't like it, and then you look at where you want to go. What'll happen sometimes when you focus on, I don't like where I'm at too much, you're staring at the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and it seems insurmountable. So at the same token, you don't want to be full of BS. If you're 100 pounds overweight, you haven't worked out in a year, and the doctor said you're pre-diabetic and have high blood pressure, don't say, I got it going on and I'm a healthy person. Instead, you do have to look at things honestly and truthfully. So I agree with Troy in that. However, if you focus on the journey instead of the gap between where you are and where you want to be, if you just say, all right, every step I take in this direction, I'm going to be better than I was the day before. And what a fun process that's going to be. I bet you if I stick with it in a year, I'm not going to even recognize that person I was back then. So rather than focusing on, I'm so far away from this ideal, bite off what you can and say, if I do this today, I'm this much better than I was yesterday. Mm-hmm. There's a book out there called The Slight Edge. It's used more in the business world, but the concepts are universal to making any change in life. And we think of things as being these big, grand gestures, but it's the really boring little mundane things you do every day that completely change and transform your life. And when it comes to perspective, you have to realize the nature of how change happens. Mm-hmm. And when you recognize that it's that slight edge, it's that little thing consistently done that completely transforms your life, you give yourself grace to not hate where you're at, not be obsessed with how far away your goal seems. And it gives you space to choose to enjoy the process and the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to clarify, I'm not saying be like completely lie to yourself, right? And say, I'm all that when you're 100 pounds overweight. If you notice the example I gave, I didn't say that about my body. I was in appreciation for what my body can do.
Right.
Not about the way it looks. So there is the point I was trying to make is, if you are focused on what is, and which agrees with you, instead of what the process is and what you're working towards. Every topic has two ends, a way of positively framing it or a way of negatively framing it, right? So which one feels better? Oh my God, I'm so overweight and I'm lazy and all my habits suck and I'm never going to be able to lose and I'm never going to that way, or I am where I am. I know where I want to go. It's not going to be overnight, and I'm just going to, try to have as much fun as possible, finding ways to be, to make decisions that are going to get me there. That there's hope in one, and there's pessimism and doom and gloom and, pushing a rock up a hill. That's the way we can look at it, or the other way.
Yeah.
Choice is yours.
There's a couple of specific examples that I want to cite to support what you're saying. One, if anybody out there is hearing this and still saying, no, I know what I want to look like and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there no matter what, and I'm okay with not liking it. Well, I'm going to cite a study that I think was heartbreaking. And it was done when they got a collection of African-American kids, white kids, and then a bunch of dolls. And they went and saw which dolls the kids picked. The African-American kids were all picking the white dolls. And when I was made aware of this study, it's heartbreaking to me, and it's so not healthy, that our society has taught them that is the ideal at such a young age, whether it's society or even coming from parents or wherever it's coming from. I think that that's such a dangerous and scary finding that came from that study. And if you think on that for a moment, think about in your own life, are you doing that? And what must that pain be like to, want the other so bad? You have to at least appreciate the hand you've been dealt and enjoy it. And there are beautiful pros to it. Going along this line, I have friends that only date Asian. I have friends that only date African American because, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I have actor friends that are not leading men types. They're character types. I'll just say it. They're funny looking. But you know what? They love it because they're like, this face gets me paid. I stand out. And I love that I'm able to make people laugh. I love that I'm able to tell stories and make people feel a certain way. And I think that's a beautiful perspective because they say, look what this face can do. It makes me money. I make people laugh. I get opportunities that other people don't. And I'm never judged in a superficial way. People are always getting to know me because I don't have a 10 out of a 10 here. I have unique, quirky, funny characteristics.
Yeah, it's so funny that you just brought about dating and different races because I've been trying to remember to talk about that because I'm on, I actually finally on the dating update, I was swiping way too many times left before I found a right on both Bumble and Tinder. So someone had suggested elite singles so that, you actually have to pay for it. So I said, okay, pay for it for 1 month. And they're matching me with a plethora of Asians. And I'm just like, I've dated 1.5 Asians my entire dating career. Now, whether that is because I was influenced as a kid that Asian was not good and therefore I developed an aversion to dating Asian. I don't know why, whatever. But I tried to date one Asian early, last month. And it was a great experience. Nice guy, but no chemistry. And then this one that I got matched to was very, very, forward in his, wanting to get to know me, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I have to be honest with you. And he's like 5'3", he's like 5'6", which I never would, I said, I hope I don't sound racist, but I rarely date. I think I've never really dated Asian. And he laughed in the chat and said, actually, I'm opposite. I usually only date Asian. I was married to a white woman, and now I only date Asians. And I'm like, oh, I was married. My husband was white, is white, and I pretty much so. But he has all of the things that would match on. He surfs. He loves the water. I sail. He's a PhD or an MBA, and has all the other stuff that I had put as requirements. And so I at first I was just going to bow out, and I thought, you know what? I am trying to have a healthy relationship, probably for the first time in my life. I have to expand my BS belief systems about even chemistry. Maybe chemistry has nothing to do with my idea of what is hot or what is not. And then we don't even have time to get into this today, but just looking at, is chemistry even a good thing? There's some studies that are saying that flutter we're looking for is maybe not a healthy thing because it's all coming from lust, which is not sustainable. So so there's my live out loud on the show and being honest about my own stuff. And so, sorry.
You know, going back to what you said about, and I say this all the time, what other people think of you is none of your business. And so similarly, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. You don't know what about you that you might not like that someone else loves, you know? And so, you know, maybe they're only dating Asian because there's something culturally in common that they really gravitate towards and love, or it's a physical attribute and feature. And that's why it's so important to love the hand that you've been dealt and to choose your perspective on that wisely, because here's something that's definitely not attractive. If you are constantly like hating yourself and down on yourself, you're putting a burden on the other person to lift you up. And then they're sucked down into this negativity too. Relieve people. If you can't love yourself, do it for the other person. Relieve them of the burden of having to pick you up all the time. So the least you can do is choose to love, you know, who you are, because that opens the door for them to go and say, and human behavior is mimetic. Mime-like. If you love yourself, other people go, oh, wow, there must be something to love. It's when you go to a party and someone walks in and they light up the room, or there could be 100 people in the room, and it doesn't matter what the room is, but whenever this person's in that room, they're one of the 3 people you notice because they're just beaming. And that's a choice. That's a choice, because that person isn't always the most objectively attractive, but there's something about them. And I'm going to venture to say that that's something is the way that they've chosen to look at themselves, to celebrate their strengths. They're doing the blissciplines each day of gratitude and what they like. I mean, I guess I'm coming towards my 3 final closing thoughts on this.
Yes,
thing.
because we're in our final 2.
Yeah. One would be, it was what I just said. Choose to love the hand you've been dealt and frame the way you look at yourself carefully, because your perspective is your choice. That would be one thing. Secondly, there are objective things of attractiveness that are worth pursuing because they're universally just good, unequivocally good. Be healthy, be confident, find ways to genuinely do those things, and everything else will improve. And the third thing is, you know, don't forget that these standards of what's hot, what's not, have changed 180 degrees over time. And there's totally different strokes for different folks. You don't have to play to the universal market. Love what you've got and play to your demographic.
Absolutely.
Those would be my closing thoughts on hot or not, food for thought.
All right. And I will add on that, it's not just what you think of me is none of my business. What society thinks the standard is none of my business. So I want to be the best that I can be. Obviously, we're going to have to hit this topic again next week because we just barely scraped the surface. Because when you say, you know, I like the way that I am, there is one reaction to put the moose on the table is, of course you would say that, James. You do look like the standard in a lot of ways of what someone would say is attractive. So it's easier for you to say that. What about someone who's completely opposite to that? How can we feel good about the way we look when we get criticized or made fun of or any of those things? So I want to hit that one when we come back next week, because I do really think that we have to be real about beauty and the standards and what people say to an extent. Thank you. We are out of time. So glad that you joined us today. It's all about balance. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. This is Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorn. Have a great day, everybody.
Reporting live here at KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind. Now remember, go and have the best day ever. We'll see you tomorrow with Tempting Conversations with my co-host, Alon Carter.